All right, today we're going to go over the barbell bicep curl. I'm going to do it a little bit differently, not to be different, but really in order to keep you really stable, okay? So I'm basically pulling a little bit from the bodybuilding world, I'm pulling a little bit from the sport world, and I kind of developed this. So really straightforward, nothing really changes in terms of like we've all seen and all done it, but the idea is we really want to isolate the bicep. We don't want to incorporate any shrugging and other muscle groups associated with that. We want to eliminate swinging, of course. So it may look like that, but what you're going to see when I demonstrate is I'm going to really engage my posterior chain, okay, to create an anchor, so that way I can really stress out my bicep, okay? One of the biggest common flaws you see in a bicep curl is when people curl, they lift, and the humerus pulls away from the rib cage. All right, as soon as this happens, the bicep basically, it doesn't turn off, but the focal point of the lift then becomes the shoulder, okay? And also what happens from that point, when I lift, especially with the anterior front side loaded weight, when I lift my shoulder away, or I'm sorry, the humerus away from my rib cage, the scapula's got to go as well. And so you see a lot of people, they compensate through shrugging because the humerus comes away from the rib cage. So all that being said, what we're going to do is focus on, again, the shrug. Think opposite of the shrug with a glute contraction, so all we get is bicep, okay? We also don't want a lot of wrist movement either, so that's really pretty simply fixed just by making sure you have a really firm, I say firm handshake on the bar. You don't need to gir it down too much, okay? But we don't want a lot of wrist action, okay? So pretty straightforward, and again, I want to kind of think of it like an RDL, initial like hamstring stretch, is like I'm going to reach down with my, keep this good neutral rib cage position, okay? I don't want excess pelvis tilt. So again, start with a glute contraction, lats are going to be down, I'm going to get a decent hamstring stretch, it's going to start, okay? Then I'm going to basically shorten my hamstring as I can contract my glutes, and then carry that movement into my bicep. I'm not snapping it up, the humerus isn't coming away from the rib cage, but what I'm doing is just making sure I've got a good posterior anchor so I can lift that weight out in front of me. And you might think, well, why can't I just gir it down and lift? You can, but again, using Newton's law, an object in motion will stay in motion. All I'm trying to do is put an object in motion and keep it going. And again, it's kind of like I've mentioned before, is like you have a train engine, a bunch of train cars. When that train engine takes off, you can hear the slack go bang, bang, bang. The slack coming out of those train cars. We want to avoid the banging. We're trying to take slack out as we're trying to challenge this particular muscle group. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm putting everything in motion and then carrying it over to my bicep. And it looks a little bit like this. Again, start with a glute contraction and a reverse shrug, and basically you'll see my triceps fire. They get flexed. I basically reach, hamstrings, glutes, and come right back down. It's almost like my starting point becomes, it really is, doesn't almost, it is, my starting point becomes my finish. So my starting point is here, boom, put it back, right back to where I started. Boom, again, you see I'm not whipping it, I'm not flinging it up, I'm just marrying up my locomotion of my upper and lower body. And just simply like I want to think about like this, is when I'm curling, it sounds kind of crazy, what's the equivalent of my bicep on my leg? The hamstrings. So again, really we're so magnificently made, when I fire my hamstrings, it allows me to anchor my bicep, okay? So I want to think about like that. I want to get a good stretch, maybe not even a stretch in the hamstrings, okay? And then really as I shorten the biceps of my legs, I shorten the biceps of my arms. And it becomes very fluid and systematic, okay? And then if I have to rest, I can rest down here. Boom, I can come back down here, stand up, kind of shake it out, reset my movement, reach, boom, come back, boom. Find that rhythm. I want you to be athletic. Again, nothing to take away from very static bicep curling, but for you, trying to get you to be like decathletes, let's get you athletic, let's get you moving, and that is a bicep curl with a barbell.